My name is Alex from Prodigy, one of the co-founders. Basically, I'm here to chat about how we make education extremely engaging, but more importantly, how we're starting to focus really on measuring efficacy for our 7.5 million monthly active students. Our mission at Prodigy is to make sure that all students around the world love math. And the reason for that is that we believe that education is a basic human right. And it's not one that should be dictated by a genetic lottery where it depends on whether or not you're born into the right country, whether or not your parents have the resources necessary to provide additional education for you. So what we've done is we built a platform where all of the education content is free and free forever. So it's grades 1 through 8, 1,500 plus curriculum-aligned math skills, and all of that's delivered in a free Pokemon-style math game. Kind of like a World of Warcraft, but done more in a pixel art style. The way it works is every child goes in, creates their very own character, and then they're dropped into this world where they learn math alongside their classmates, but at their very own pace. Again, all the education content is free, but the way that we make that work is that we have a completely optional parent upgrade that only unlocks extra game content, like additional hats, etc., for the characters. As of right now, about 2% of students upgrade to the paid membership. That has allowed us to keep all of the other education content free for everybody. Already touched on in terms of stats, those students end up answering about 150 million math questions per week. That's actually driving some very interesting outcomes. So this is a white paper that we've published from 171 schools in Texas, where students who were consistently using Prodigy saw twice the improvements on end-of-year standardized test scores than those who were not. The way that we do that is by taking a holistic approach to education where we focus extremely heavily on student engagement, but then all the other supporting factors that make sure that that engagement is being channeled into effective education. Not sure where to click this. Perfect. One of the big things that we do is using that 150 million questions per week is making sure that we're the best that we can be. So we go back and look at every single skill, every single question, and see when there are problems. We find problems in terms of the way that we've worded the question, when there are weird error rates that are higher than the other typical skills within that grade. We figure out which lessons are most effective. So we started coming out with, by the time we go into next school year, we'll have lessons for every single grade 3 Common Core skill. And we go in, identify when a child's struggling, introduce that lesson as an intervention, and see whether or not it had the desired impact. If it didn't, not great, we're gonna go back and fix it. And then in the background, we're also changing the algorithm itself. So figuring out what are the patterns that lead to student churn? What are the patterns that lead to the longest engagement and the most number of skills and lessons learned so that additional students can be put in the same position where they're learning at the fastest rate possible? Nope, no worries. In terms of meeting learner needs, from the time the child starts to the time that they basically go into summer break, basically we're adapting based on their individual needs. So when they start, they create their own character, but they also take a placement test that places them in the correct grade. From there, they work their way through depth of knowledge, which is just generally progressively more complicated content up to like word problems. They have hints and lessons along the way, but we also make sure that students understand what they're learning. So we now have badges. We make sure that they understand that they just mastered multiplication so that they have a little bit more control over their education moving forward and they feel more empowered. We also work very heavily to save educator time. So there's these 1,500 skills that students can go and learn at their own pace. We will take care of everything if the teacher doesn't necessarily want to be overly involved, but they do have the ability to go and see curriculum reports, everything that their students are learning, and then also assess how well they're doing based on what they're teaching in the classroom. So formative and diagnostic assessment baked right in. All of that's also reported back to the parent for free. So curriculum coverage, going through exact same content, but worded and positioned in a way that parents actually understand. We have a report card that provides a monthly snapshot of everything their child is working on and learning. And then they can assign goals within the game to make sure that their child, if they go in and answer, let's say 20 questions, they get a reward in game. And so it creates this nice positive feedback loop, because really what we're trying to do there is make sure parental involvement is the #1 predictor of student achievement. We want to make sure that they have easy ways to have good conversations with their children. In terms of feedback from teachers, we've been getting some very positive stuff. On the screen, you can see that 83% believe that it improved achievement in state or standardized test scores. 92% believe it increased overall achievement, and an incredible 97% believe that it improves confidence in math. Kind of the wrong audience potentially, but If anybody's interested in potentially signing up, free for parents and teachers, also free for schools. But for administrators, we are doing a ton of research to make sure that we close the loop and can definitively prove that the product works. So I'd love to chat to anybody who's interested in math education. Thanks.